A fluorescent light buzzed above a narrow examination room. The patient sitting on the table had no reason to be afraid. Across from him stood a respected doctor in a white coat, a man trusted by families, hospitals, and entire communities. The appointment looked ordinary. The clipboard was ordinary. The conversation was ordinary. What nobody could see was that the person holding the stethoscope was already becoming one of the deadliest serial killers in modern history. For years, patients would walk into his care seeking help. Many never walked back out. His name was Harold Shipman. And by the time investigators finally understood what he had been doing, the number of victims was so large that even experienced detectives struggled to believe it. The story begins far from police investigations and murder inquiries. It begins in post-war England, where Shipman grew up as a bright, intelligent student. Friends and teachers described him as disciplined and capable. He excelled academically and eventually pursued medicine, entering a profession built almost entirely on trust. Doctors occupy a unique position in society. Most criminals must overcome locks, alarms, witnesses, and suspicion. Doctors are invited inside. Patients tell them their secrets. Families trust their judgments. Hospitals trust their decisions. Death certificates often pass through their hands with little scrutiny. For most physicians, that trust becomes a responsibility. For Harold Shipman, it became an opportunity. Years before anyone suspected murder, there were warning signs. As a young doctor, Shipman developed an addiction to painkillers. He was caught forging prescriptions and abusing medication intended for patients. It was a serious offense. His medical career could have ended there. Instead, after treatment and professional review, he eventually returned to practice. The incident damaged his reputation for a time, but it did not stop him from becoming a family doctor. And that decision would have consequences nobody could yet imagine. Years later, Shipman established himself as a respected general practitioner in Hyde, a town near Manchester. To neighbors and patients, he appeared dependable. He worked long hours. He seemed dedicated. Many elderly patients preferred seeing him over anyone else. Families welcomed him into their homes. That access mattered, because unlike many serial killers who hunt strangers in dark alleys or isolated roads, Shipman often operated in living rooms, bedrooms, and care settings where nobody expected danger. His victims were frequently elderly women. Many lived alone. Many trusted him completely. The pattern was horrifyingly simple. Shipman would visit a patient. At some point, he would administer a lethal dose of diamorphine, a powerful opioid. Death would often follow quickly. Then came perhaps the most disturbing part. The doctor who caused the death would officially certify it. The system trusted him. And because doctors regularly encounter death, especially among elderly patients, the deaths rarely triggered immediate suspicion. One death looked natural, then another, and another, and another. Viewed individually, they appeared ordinary. Viewed together, they formed one of the largest murder patterns in criminal history. Yet for years, nobody connected the dots. Part of the reason was psychological. People struggled to imagine evil wearing familiar uniforms. Society expects killers to look dangerous. We imagine violence coming from criminals, gang members, fugitives, or strangers. Not from the family doctor who asks about your blood pressure. Not from the physician who attended community events. Not from the man whose patients praised his kindness. That contradiction acted like camouflage. While investigators looked elsewhere, Shipman continued practicing medicine. And the death count continued rising. As the years passed, small irregularities began appearing around the edges of his work. Some relatives felt uneasy. Certain deaths seemed unexpectedly sudden. Some patients appeared healthier than expected shortly before they died. Individually, those concerns were easy to dismiss. Medicine is uncertain. People die unexpectedly. Doctors make difficult judgments. But beneath those explanations, a pattern was slowly emerging. One person who noticed something unusual was a local undertaker. When your profession involves handling hundreds of deaths, certain trends become visible. The undertaker observed that an unusually high number of deaths appeared connected to Shipman's patients. It was not definitive evidence, but it was enough to raise questions. At roughly the same time, other professionals began noticing similar concerns. The deaths seemed clustered. The ages were similar. The circumstances felt repetitive. Still, suspicion is not proof, and accusing a respected doctor of murder is an extraordinary step. Investigators initially examined the concerns, but failed to uncover enough evidence. The inquiry stalled. Shipman remained free. The opportunity had arrived, and the opportunity was missed. For the families who would lose loved ones afterward, that failure would become one of the most painful aspects of the entire case. Because the killings did not stop. Months turned into years. The victim count continued growing. Meanwhile, Harold Shipman maintained the appearance of normality. Patients booked appointments. Neighbors saw an ordinary doctor. Medical records accumulated. Death certificates continued being signed. The machinery of trust kept moving. Then one death changed everything. In June 1998, a woman named Kathleen Grundy was found dead in her home. At first glance, it appeared similar to many previous deaths associated with Shipman. She was elderly. She had recently seen her doctor. Natural causes seemed plausible, but something unusual happened afterward. A will surfaced. According to the document, Grundy had supposedly left the bulk of her estate to Harold Shipman. Not her family, not her relatives, her doctor. The document immediately raised alarms. Family members could not believe it reflected her wishes. The language seemed strange. The decision felt completely out of character. Questions began multiplying. Why would a patient suddenly leave such a significant inheritance to her physician? Why had nobody heard about this decision before? And why did the document feel wrong? Investigators examined the will more closely. Then they discovered something explosive. The document had likely been forged. What initially looked like a dispute over inheritance suddenly became something much larger. Attention shifted toward Shipman himself. The deeper investigators looked, the more disturbing the picture became. Toxicology testing revealed evidence of diamorphine. Medical records contained suspicious entries. Timelines did not always align. Documentation appeared manipulated. A door that had remained closed for years finally began opening. Behind it was an enormous collection of deaths that suddenly demanded re-examination. Detectives started reviewing patient files. Then they reviewed more. Then more. Each file represented a life. Each name represented a person who had trusted their doctor. And with every new review, the pattern grew harder to ignore. Deaths frequently occurred shortly after Shipman visited. Medical records often contained unusual entries added near the time of death. Victims shared striking similarities. The statistical pattern became overwhelming. What once appeared to be coincidence now looked like systematic killing. Investigators faced a chilling realization. They were not dealing with a single suspicious death. They were potentially confronting one of the most prolific serial murder cases ever uncovered. As news spread, shock rippled through Britain. The idea itself felt impossible. A family doctor, a trusted physician, a community figure, the person many patients relied upon most. Yet evidence continued accumulating. Court proceedings followed. Witnesses testified. Medical experts analyzed records. Investigators reconstructed timelines stretching back years. Families listened as details emerged that fundamentally changed how they understood the deaths of their loved ones. Some had spent years believing a parent or grandparent died naturally. Now they faced the possibility that those final moments had been engineered. In January 2000, Harold Shipman was convicted. The verdict confirmed what many had struggled to accept. The doctor was a murderer. But even after the conviction, one enormous question remained unanswered. How many people had he actually killed? That question launched one of the most extensive investigations in British criminal history. Experts began reviewing records across decades. Patient files, prescription histories, death certificates, medical notes, patterns of mortality. The deeper they looked, the larger the number became. Official estimates eventually suggested that Shipman had murdered well over 200 people. Some analyses placed the figure around 250 victims. Other assessments suggested the true total could be even higher. No exact number may ever be known. Many deaths occurred years before suspicions emerged. Evidence faded. Witnesses disappeared. Records became incomplete. The full scale of the killing may have died with Shipman himself. What investigators could say with confidence was already staggering. Few serial killers in recorded history have approached numbers on that scale. Most murderers are limited by opportunity. Shipman's profession gave him almost unlimited access. Most killers must hide from their victims. Shipman's victims welcomed him inside. Most killers fight against suspicion. Shipman operated within a system designed to trust him. That combination proved devastating. The case triggered profound changes throughout Britain's medical and legal systems. Questions emerged everywhere. How had so many deaths gone unnoticed? Why had warning signs been missed? Why had earlier concerns failed to stop him? How should medical oversight change in response? The answers led to reforms. Death certification procedures were scrutinized. Monitoring systems were strengthened. Oversight mechanisms were reevaluated. Authorities attempted to close the gaps that had allowed one doctor to exploit trust for so long. Yet no procedural change could fully erase the damage. Behind every statistic stood a person. A grandmother, a mother, a neighbor, a friend, a patient who believed they were receiving care. The numbers are almost too large to comprehend. When people hear the estimate of more than 200 victims, the figure can become abstract. But each victim had a name, a family, a home, routines, memories, and plans for tomorrow. The true horror of the Shipman case is not just the scale. It is the betrayal. Medicine depends on trust. Every appointment begins with an assumption that the person offering treatment intends to help. Without that assumption, healthcare itself becomes impossible. Harold Shipman weaponized that trust. He transformed one of society's most respected roles into a cover for murder. And that is what makes the case uniquely unsettling. Not simply the number of deaths, not simply the years he avoided detection, but the realization that the safest person in the room was, in reality, the greatest threat. Long after the trials ended and the investigations closed, that uncomfortable truth continued to linger. Because Harold Shipman did not defeat a security system. He did not outsmart a vault. He did not hide in the shadows. He stood in plain sight wearing a white coat. And for decades, nobody imagined they needed to look there.